The Electricity Sector Reforms Bill was presented to the Cabinet earlier this week, and it was decided that the new bill will be gazetted and presented in Parliament for approval.
The Cabinet granted approval to implement a plan to restructure the CEB. We need the private sector support for it. The Cabinet of Ministers approved the proposed Electricity Sector Reforms Bill, and it will be presented in Parliament for approval.
What does the new Electricity Sector Reforms Bill aim to introduce? The bill aims to establish independent corporate entities responsible for activities related to electricity generation, transmission, distribution, trade, supply and procurement already performed by the Ceylon Electricity Board. Entities will be set up in a manner in which they can be registered under the Companies Act. This move is to be done with the aim of attracting new investments and creating market competition. It also proposes for the establishment of a National Electricity Advisory Council, while the Public Utilities Commission of Sri Lanka will serve as the regulator of the electricity sector. The bill also proposes for the implementation of timely, legal, structural, oversight and market-based changes to ensure the financial self-sufficiency of the corporate entities. This includes the adoption of cost-reflective and transparent tariff system, improved financial and resource management, and enhanced accountability and oversight measures. It also proposes the promotion of private sector investment in the electricity industry through stock market listing, the public-private partnership modalities. It also places emphasis on the government's commitment to decarbonization goals, climate change policies, and the use of renewable energy sources. The Frontline Socialists Party, speaking to reporters, made multiple exposés on the proposed Electricity Sector Reforms Bill.
Their plan is to introduce the Power Sector Regulatory Act soon so that they can do away with the Ceylon Electricity Board. Thereafter, in another 2 years, they will merge the two acts to bring another new act. By 2025, the CEB and the electricity sector will have no interference, and the tariff will be used for corporate entities to generate profits. According to the objects of this act, it is to facilitate the establishment of independent and accountable corporate entities. It also wants to promote competition in relation to the generation. However, that means awarding it to these entities the generation, transmission, distribution, trade supply and procurement of electricity. In other words, it means that tenders will be called for these sectors and they will be given to the private companies. Further, they will be introducing two new structures. One is the National Electricity Advisory Council, and it will have 5 members, all appointed by the Ministry of Power and Energy. In addition, the Minister shall, after informing the Cabinet of Ministers in writing the reasons, remove any member of the Council. It is this Council that will be vested with the power to prepare the rules and laws. Section 9 of the bill says that a national system operator will also be established. Who is this national system operator? It is a state-owned entity that will be preparing the long-term and short-term plans for the country's electricity grid. However, later it can be listed in the stock market. In addition, Section 13 proposes for the establishment of the National Transmission Network Service Provider. It is an entity that the government of Sri Lanka holds more than 50% of shares. It will be responsible for the maintenance of the national transmission network.
Views were also expressed on the impact the passage of this bill would have on the electricity tariff.
Section 26 of the bill is on tariff. Section 26(3)(a) says the tariff will include costs payable to generators supplying electricity. Thereafter, it also says that the tariff will include the capital expenditure for the electricity generation plan. It also includes the aggregate revenue requirement to be recovered by transmission and distribution licenses. It will also include the transmission tariff. Thereafter, the debt is added to the treasury, and that too will be added to the tariff. The CEB made profits to the tune of 20,000 million in October. It was done in order to show that the CEB is profitable and to sell it off to the companies.
Economic analyst Dhananath Fernando, speaking on the Pathikada program, pointed out that the CEB's debt to state banks is also added onto the people by the budget in order to release the CEB from this burden.
The accumulated debt burden of the CEB and the CPC over the years is 1.8 trillion rupees. A lion's share of the debt is owed to the two state banks. When these banks announced a debt haircut, the capital of these banks will be insufficient for them to continue to operate. Therefore, someone has to funnel this money, and that is why a portion of that burden, to the tune of 450 billion rupees, was placed on the people, be it domestic or external debt. It ultimately falls on the laurels of the people. Sri Lankan Airlines, CEB and CPC are loss-making entities. The banks that provided loans to them are in crisis. In order to stabilize the banking sector, the budget proposes to provide 450 billion rupees. It proposes to divest 20% stake in the two largest state banks in the country. If not, they propose to restructure that 1.8 trillion rupees.
Who will be coming forward to invest in Sri Lanka's electricity sector after introducing such changes in haste? The Ceylon Electricity Employees Union made a revelation on this matter.
The distribution arm will be divided into 6 to 7 agencies. They will establish companies named R1, R2, R3 and R4. However, they have not revealed R5, which is LECO. Tata will get 4 systems and LECO will get 1. The transmission system will be given to Adani and the agreement is to be signed on the 26th. Ranil Wickremesinghe is now looking for money to fund the next presidential election. Therefore, these projects will be given to Adani. This is an Elara-type Indian invasion of Sri Lanka based on the country's energy sector. We have made an international level inquiry and it is clear that India is operating in a manner of taking control of countries in the region via their energy sectors. They will install solar power plants and will lay cables to India. They have planned to lay cables from Madras to Trincomalee over our LNG and fuel deposits.
Cable hara dan tel LNG kina nidhi udin danne.
Energy is a factor that determines the sovereignty of a country. Do you recall the situation of the people when the country was in short supply of fuel and electricity in the recent past? What will happen if this sector is entirely in the hands of independent foreign parties? There is one thing that must not be forgotten. A lion's share of the electricity supply in our country depends on the Chinese-built coal plant in Norachole. India's Adani company has received approval for a wind power project and in the future, they will also contribute to a significant part of the country's energy supply. At the same time, hydropower plants produce electricity at the lowest cost. What will happen when these power plants are given to other countries or companies that represent those countries? Do you remember the agreement that the previous government suddenly signed in the middle of the night with a company called Newsfirst in America? The agreement proposes to provide power plants as well as LNG supply. Eventually, no such company set up shop in the country, and what happened to that agreement is a mystery. If such a situation is not to be repeated, is it not the responsibility of the leaders of the country to protect the nation from foreign meddling by ensuring that we do not fall prey to geopolitical traps in a bid to protect the energy sector sovereignty that we achieved with independence in 1948? We don't care about China, India or any other country in our reporting. We care about the people of this country and their future.